Detailing products can be used in many different ways for very different results. For example, this tire shine, if you spray it on, you'll get a very wet looking tire, and some people love that. I don't, so I spray it onto a rag. And with this black plastic restorer, some people just like to dab it on just a tiny bit, wipe it on, wipe it off, but I treat plastic like skin. If it's old and it's dried out, you're gonna need to use a lot of moisturizer. You're gonna need to let it sit for a minute before you wipe it off. So there's a couple different ways that I like to use these products, and I just wanted to share with you guys. So here are some tips and tricks on how I use these products, and I'll show you the results that I get. Now we'll start with this black plastic trim restorer. As I said, plastic is also similar to skin in the sense where it dries out, it becomes more porous, and it's gonna need more moisturizer, aka this black plastic trim restorer, to get that sheen back to it. So if you're working with black plastic that hasn't been restored at all, I would highly recommend lathering this stuff on super heavily. Get a thick film on there and let it sit for just a minute before you buff it off. Wipe it out and get really use this stuff liberally. Some people like to put a little bit on a rag and just kind of like buff it in super hard, but I like to put a lot on, let it sit, let it start to kind of dye the plastic almost, and then wipe it off. So we're gonna be using a lot more of this stuff than I think you've probably seen people use in other videos to get the results that I'm looking for. I think you guys can pretty easily see on video, even with a super liberal amount of our detailing product, the plastic is just absorbing all of our product, and the rag's not super wet, the rag's not absorbing it, it's the plastic. So a lot goes a long way in this case. And then you want to I just like to evenly disperse the product all over the surface, making sure you get like every little crack so there's not weird gray spots. And then I let it sit for just a minute. You don't want it to dry out. Same with basically all detailing products. You don't want it to dry. Before it dries, you want to switch over to a dry rag and start to just buff the product off, or else you'll start to get weird spots. But a super liberal amount, let it sit just a second, and then buff it off. And then as you guys can hopefully see, the plastic is definitely starting to come back to life here. I've already done the front bumper, I did that weeks ago and I've left it, so you guys can see those results as well, and then the rear bumper we just did. This stuff also, if you didn't know, almost adds a little bit of a ceramic coat. It's basically a wax, so when this gets wet, water will bead off of it now, which is super cool. I can show you some results. This is before we did the black plastic restorer, and then this is after. The water kind of drips off, similar to ceramic coat on paint, so that is another huge perk. If you've got really old plastic and you've never done this before, I would recommend doing it multiple times across multiple different days. Let it dry, let it soak in, and then keep doing it, and eventually you'll get to the point where you don't need to do it often. You might only need to do it once every couple of months to keep that black sheen to it. And then as for this Hot Shine tire spray, there are tire sprays and tire shines that give you a matte look. This is one that gives you a wet look, but personally I don't love the wet look, but I do like this stuff. I think it works well. So what I choose to do, instead of spraying it directly onto my tire and getting everything that glossy wet look like it cuts from the dealership, I spray it onto a rag separately and then wipe it on and then buff it in and then wipe it off, because I don't love that wet look. So I want my tires to look new, but I don't want them to look like they've just come from the dealership and been soaked in tire shine. So that's how I use this product. And then for this stuff, like I said, I like to first actually just spray it onto the rag and set it onto the actual tire. And then I like to rub it in by hand instead of just blasting absolutely everything with this spray. And then we'll just do a small section, but after you get it worked into the rubber, flip it around, and then I like to just buff it off. I want it to look new, but I don't want it to look wet. When they look wet, it just looks so off. So just something like that, just to make it darker, and then you can go around the rest of it. And then this way you're also not spraying your wheel with the tire shine stuff. So just rub it in. You can also use like an applicator pad for this, but a microfiber works just as well. And then that's all I do for tire shine, just to make it look dark so it contrasts nicely with the wheel, but not so much that it looks wet and unnatural and not like a tire anymore. So And then if you see spots that look a little gray, you just do them, just like spot tire shine it. That's what I like to do for this stuff. There are links to both of these products in the description. Again, these are just some tips and tricks on how I use these products. If you guys think I'm using them wrong, or you guys use them in a different way or have other tips, make sure to leave those below. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you're new here, my name is Ben and I'm moving to Japan to try and buy a Nissan Skyline R32 off of YouTube and Instagram AdSense. So if you guys are interested in following along on that journey, make sure to subscribe. That's about all I got for you guys today. Peace.